enjoying yourself. Make sure you watch out for our elderly and our pets. Those have a soft spot in my heart. So continue to enjoy summer. Um, Today's conversation, we're going to talk about what's been happening even more so in our communities. It's gun violence, and how this thing has just gotten so big over the years, and it just it's so concerning with how much this is taking over, and hurting a lot of innocent people. Doing the research here, Washington Post quoted as of August 12th that as of so far, there were 53 deaths, death-related gun violence totals in 2019 so far. But as far as just being injured by gun violence, it's over 9,000 cases that have been reported. This is some serious stuff out there, and just concerning how do we protect our communities? How do we protect ourselves? Because we would be driving down the street and something happens. So I wanted to bring on today my co-host. He's doing some phenomenal things in the community. My heart goes out to him. His story is phenomenal. His son, he lost his son in May of 2016 to gun violence. And here to share his story is the CEO and the founder of Crime Victims Foundation. He's also a television host from Vox Wave with his weekly Friday show. Make sure you catch his show there on Vox Wave. Daryl Harrison, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Pam, thank you. Thank you for having me on with you today. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I love what you're doing out there in the community, especially because it is affecting so many people. Gun violence is a serious thing, and I'm sorry to that you lost your son to gun violence in 2016. Can you share some of that story with the family here?
Yeah, Pam. It's pretty rough. You know what I'm saying? If it would have never happened to me, I wouldn't have known. You can always hear it with somebody else's child, and you'd be like, wow, how they're dealing with that. Right. And now that pain and grief came to my door, and it was just, it was just overwhelming because it's something that parents think about every day because of what the world is into today. Everyone is scared about their child in the streets now. And right. That was bothering me. And then, my son had called me about 10 o'clock on that day on May the 4th. He called me. Told me
How old was he?
20 years old.
Okay, he was still young.
Yeah, he just turned 20 years old on April the 26th.
Wow.
And he called me like, Dad, I'm over here by America's Best Wings. Did you want anything? I'm going to get something to eat. And I'm like, no, I'm okay, son. I'll see you in a minute. Because the store was only 5 minutes away from the house. 15 minutes later, I get a call, fam, that he'd been shot. And I'm like, how is he shot? He was in the restaurant. He in the store. Why has my son been shot? So, I grabbed my wife and everybody. We run out and, they say he was at Southern Maryland Hospital. So my cousin called me, who was with him, and he screaming and hollering, they shot him in the head, Uncle Daryl, they shot him in the head. So, now you hear, wow, a head wound is a rough thing, so I'm praying, God, please keep my son. And I get down to the hospital, and my son, he's laying there, he's on life support. Learned that he was shot in the head with a 9mm bullet that went through his head, causing 2 holes in his head. And
wow.
He was wrapped up all the way around. His left eye was covered. His right eye was open, and it was staring backwards. And
wow.
I knew at that time he was gone, but his friends picked him up and rushed him to Southern Maryland, not knowing that Southern Maryland wasn't a trauma center. I know they tried to think fast on it. They panicked. Blood everywhere. His friends tell me his eyes was rolling in his head. did, and they tried, and but they couldn't do nothing for him there. So we was gonna try to medevac him to Washington Hospital Center, but it was like a storm was coming, so they sent the ambulance and everybody prepared to take him out. And then they called me back in, and sometimes you would think it gets easier when you're telling it, but it doesn't get easy. They told me they needed to talk to me. Me and my wife, they said that his heart had stopped 3 times, and what did they want us to do, because they can't keep reviving him.
Right.
So, you know, being that with so many families and friends there, we all went in together, and we gathered around him to take about. And you know, that was my only son. You know, and he was the baby in the family. We got 3 daughters, and he was this baby. And I laid beside him and kissed him, and you know, we all in there crying. And you know, it's an empty pain for him to leave the hospital without your child.
Right.
The most thing that hurt me the most was, you know, after everybody left out the room, and I'm still there with him. And homicide come in, and they like, okay, we got to come in and take care of this. And I go back to grab his hand, and they like, sir, you can't touch him again. I'm like, you gonna tell me I can't touch my son's flush one more time?
Why they do that?
Well, they trying to say he homicide now, and it's you know, he just, you know, like it's evidence. I'm like, y'all, he been shot. Well, you know, so, you know, I didn't go through it with him. I was in too much. I was in another zone. I don't know where I was. I don't know. All I know is I left that hospital without him, holding my wife and daughter, all his friends there, and we all just bunched up together crying, and then we went home. And, you know, it's a thing that I wish this on nobody, not even my own enemy, that had to receive this, but it's happening so much in the world. But before I left my son, I told them that I would never allow your killing to go in vain. And that's what I did. But for the next, his funeral was on May the 13th. But what made it hurt so bad is that my mother died from stage 4 liver cancer on May the 2nd of 2015.
Wow. So,
you know, he gets killed.
Really
he died on May the 5th. Yeah. And they both funerals was on the same day, May the 13th. And, you know, and I tell people, if you have never been to a crime scene to see your child laying there, if you have never went to a hospital to see your child laying on life support because of a gunshot wound, and if you ain't seen him in the casket, please just respect our emotions and our feelings. Because people look at you and they like, you know, people don't know what to say to you. You know, and people want to share with you like, yeah, well, my mom died. Okay, I understand a family of older parent died, but my son's life was taken from him.
Right.
And as I learned later, Pam, that, you know, I just get, you know, talking to the police and trying to see what was going on, you know, this young guy was in the store and he was coming out and my son was going in. But he came back in 58 seconds, opened up the door, firing the gun in the store at some boys that he felt looked at him the wrong way while he was in the store.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what went down. He was firing at some other boys in the store. And a ricochet bullet hit my son in the head. And my son was in the store for over 1 minute. He walked out, went past my son, you know, and I'm sitting in court receiving this. His lawyer, which was Tom Mooney, and that what bothers me about defense lawyer. You know what's going on, but you do whatever you can to get your client off for the money that you want. And, you know, his defense was, you know, Your Honor, the boys was bothering him by looking at him. That's his defense. But just like the prosecutor kept saying, but Mr. Harrison wasn't in there. Mr. Harrison wasn't one of the boys he was shooting at. You know, he took an innocent man's life, but this lawyer continued to fight the way he did to try to get the boy sentenced. They gave him 140 years on like 5 different charges. 2nd-degree murder for my son, 3 second-degree attempt murder for the 3 boys that was
for the other kids. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it ended up, but they suspended all but 55 years. And I'm like, what? 55 years? You know what? Well, they talk about something about this guideline. So I've been trying to study about what guideline is, that they couldn't give them more time. But what the prosecutor did was made his 55 years run consecutive. That means he got to do sentenced one by one. Because he could have just ran it concurrent, and he would have just had to do 55 years. But somewhere down the line, somebody was going to probably end up giving him parole after doing 30 years or something. And I believe today, Pam, that people who murder people should not get any plea deals. They should get life for life. Now, I'm not asking for capital punishment. I'm not asking you to kill them. But the point is, why should they have a second chance when the person that they killed doesn't get a second chance? And every killing today is so senseless. My son was just a victim in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I don't accept wrong places at the wrong time no more. I look at it if that person was in the wrong place with the wrong behavior. And so, people kids are getting hit by stray bullets. What are you going to call it? But so my point is, and I tell people, back in the 18th century, when John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln, he ran out Chevettville out here in Maryland. This lady was the first woman hung for murder, because the penalty for murder back then was hanging, and she was hung for helping him. So we ain't got away from taking murder as a serious offense now, depending on who you kill. If you kill a police, it's automatically capital punishment. So I think it should be the same thing for citizens
across the board. Yeah. And just in looking so far in 2019, there's been 22 school shootings. I mean, and schools just getting ready. Some schools have already gone bad. But in listening to your story and just watching how things are unfolding, and I believe that this is going to be a hot topic come election time. It's like, what do you do? How are we to protect ourselves? Of course, now it's like you got to look at everybody, to see what's going on. I mean, you always have to be aware of your surroundings, but I mean, and I have to tell you the truth, when I go into a movie theater or where I go into a place where there are a lot of people and it's an enclosed location, I'm looking for the habit I've created for myself is to look for the closest exit. When I sit down, I'm looking at people when they come in and seeing what they look like and why. There was one time, and this is true, my daughter and I had gone to the movie, and it was in the summertime, and this guy came in, and he had this long coat, and this was just after there was the theater shooting, and I don't remember which one, but I remember it was not too long after there was the movie theater shooting, and my first thought was like, oh my gosh, this guy is in here with a coat. It's 90 degrees outside. Why does this man have on this long coat? And of course, your mind goes into how am I going to protect myself versus, hey, I'm at a movie with my family, my friends. I'm going to enjoy. Now it's like wherever you go, you have to be in this. I need to make sure I know how to protect myself before I learn to have fun. And that's a shame, because that's where it's at now.
And you're true. That is right. I mean, I always came up, and I always believe in looking at your surroundings, because things break off. And I mean, lately we ain't had killing. We ain't had the killing. We ain't had the shooting in the 3rd Street Tunnel. Mm-hmm. Traffic, we ain't had the shooting on Suitland Parkway. Yep. You know what I'm saying? You're not prepared for this breakout. You riding down the highway and all of a sudden 2 people in the car shooting at each other. Now you almost getting hit by a bullet. So you're right. I go in restaurants. I sit to my back to the back, and I sit to watch the front door as they come in. We shouldn't have to live like this today. And people say, Daryl, what can you do to get the guns off the street? And I tell them I can't get the guns off the street, but my main important is, because I told them Oliver North was selling guns. We go back all the way to Oliver North selling guns to another country. So that means guns can get in, and sometimes it is done by police or federal people are working under the scenes and getting these guns in. So my objective is to get the kid off the street. And they say how. So I told them I want to do a rec center in my son's name. People say stop telling everybody your story about what you want to do because then somebody else going to do it. Then if somebody else do it, then do it. It doesn't bother me, but I just want to do a rec center there.
No, that's fine. That's fine too, because with so many things going on with our young people, I believe, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I believe once they took away all those things that kept our children busy. Remember when we were growing up, we had all those after-school programs, all those basketball leagues and camps and things like that. When those programs went away, if you look at it, that's when crime and all these things started to increase, because now nobody has anything to do, so they're making things to do. That's my personal opinion. That's not gospel truth, but that's my personal opinion. Once they got rid of all those programs that were put in place to help these kids stay out of trouble, now here is trouble.
Yeah, a lot of young black men are suffering in the streets. I got a friend named Dr. William Clay, and he talk about that, kids, we are growing up, the kids growing up today are constipated. And he said they're constipated because of the trauma they grew up with today. Because back then, we can grow up back then, Pam, and, your parents was, and they wasn't hard on you, but they were strict because they was raising you. You can't raise the kids today like we was raised back then, because it's considered child abuse today. So they can't get that discipline that they want. Because I have seen kids as early as 2 years old off the chain. You be like, oh my God. And these kids are growing up, and like you say, now today, they at home, especially in the low income neighborhood. And kids don't have much. Mama working 2 jobs, the older kid raising the younger kid, some parents on drugs, father in jail. So what they do, they hang out and they look at what goes on in the street. And then sometimes some guys even let young kids get involved in what they're doing when they shouldn't. You're not teaching that kid to do right. Kids growing up today, and it's just truly a rough thing today. And you're right. I mean, we had Eastern Branch Boys Club back then. We went there. They had the pool. We hung out all day. And now a lot of things today cost us money. If we want to put our kid in the basketball clinic, they want all this money. You know what I'm saying? And people can't afford all that money. And a lot of kids that's growing up in the urban neighborhood can't afford the tennis shoes, or they can't afford the Xbox. So they're growing up without, and some of them becoming bullies in school. Some of them taken from other kids because they don't have. And now today, young kids, better than getting jobs, they want to rob you, take your car, stick you up, beat up elderly people. They just doing things that's unnecessary. And believe me, I say it on my show all the time. I believe we live in 2 Timothy, chapter 3, the pearliest times.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hey, let's talk about your foundation. So tell us about your foundation.
Well, my foundation, like I said, I had to leave the hospital that night. It was something in my heart that I had to do something. And 90 days later, I had my foundation registered under 501(c), and I was just making T-shirts. I had my own collection of T-shirts that I make about gun violence. I made my son logo. I first wore the shirts in California. We was in California visiting my daughter, taking the time out, and this was in October. And people loved it out there. And then I was asked to do an engagement speech. And after I did a couple of speeches on it, I just went on and started doing my own thing. Got me a truck made in my son's name and painted in his favorite color, dedicated to him. And I just started going forward. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to do. But all I knew is that I promised him that I would never let us kill and go in vain. And ever since then, in the last 3 years, everything had picked up. God had blessed me with this movement that I've been doing.
Wow, that's amazing. I really believe that this is going to be such a hot topic coming into the election year. I'm not saying, I'm all for, bearing arms and protecting your space, protecting yourself. I'm all about that, really. But when it's just out to kill someone because they looked at you wrong, or you mad at your school teacher, or you mad at the girlfriend, and you want to go kill the parent, that's a whole different level. And we need to go, I believe we need to go back to the day when your neighbors knew who you were, and they looking out. Everybody looked out for everybody, for each one, because if they knew that your mom worked at a certain time, the neighbor across the street would be watching the house, watching the going on, and you better believe your mom knew what was going on by the time she got home, or your dad knew what was going on by the time they got home. And it was, they made sure that the community was taken care of and that we were safe. And right now, I'm sure 90% of us that live in townhomes or in condos, or if you haven't been here long, you probably don't know your neighbor.
No, you don't. A lot of neighbors don't want to be. So many people are so overprotected today. And the reason I say that, because like you said, you can hit the street of your neighborhood back in the day, and you're going to tell your mother, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And the reason I brought that up, because what was it, last year or 2 years ago, I know the grandparents, remember the young lady came home over there in Southeast, right in Southwest off of South Capitol Street, and the young boy was in the street, and she told the young boy to get out of the street before he get hit. And the young boy, cursed at her, so she said, go get your mother. And the mother came back like, what you say to my son? And then the boy came and shot her and killed both of them. All because they was trying to correct the child.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And so what did we do? What did we do today, Pam? So Pam, with me, like I said, I got Darryl Hurston, the Second Crime Victim Foundation show that I do on Foxway. I interview parents that have lost kids, and let them tell their story, bring awareness to the killing, or depends on if it's a cold case. Our partnership with Prince George's County Police, they help them, people help them with their case and everything.
Right.
And so now, like, I get family, I deal with a company called Kathy. Kathy, when the parents, I asked them, have you ever had therapy? And they said no. So my foundation, I raised money to help pay for their therapy. It's not a lot of money, but it's something that the company offered me. Well, Darryl, if you bring them in, you could just pay $10 a visit for them, which is fine. Anything to get them the help they needed, because this thing only can be helped by God. You can take all the therapy you want, which will help you to talk, but it's a really devastating thing. I met mothers that lost their kids 30 years ago, and then you meet a mother who lost their kid yesterday, and the emotions and the feelings are the same.
Yeah, the pain is still real. Gosh, this is such a great conversation, and our time is running out. But I know definitely we're going to bring you back on, and we're going to continue to talk about this, and especially.
But can I share about the September? Can I share about the
Yeah,
September?
that's what I was getting ready to say. Let's talk about what you got coming up.
Yeah, this is my dream. This is my dream event, because it's the biggest one I ever done. I've done over 7 to 8 events in Maryland and D.C. alone. And this one here is Anacostia Park on September the 7th, 2019, from 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock. I got free food, free music, entertainment. I got Washington National Academy coming in to do a baseball clinic. I got basketball players. I got everything. But mostly all, my target was to help the community. Our brothers and sisters are suffering in poverty. They're suffering in struggle and in bondage. And that's not good. So I invited every foundation out that has anything to offer the community to come out and let's meet them. And let's try to get them in jobs. I got Pepco coming out. And I called it, I was calling it Community Day, but I called it Community Day, shutting down gun violence in the DMV. Each one reach one, teach one. And that's what I'm calling, hoping to bring our brothers and sisters together to get them out of the struggle of bondage and let them know if we can just pull together and stop killing one another, we can make a difference in our community.
How can people get in touch with you, Daryl?
Phone number is 202-361-3466, or I can be reached at my website is dah.bb99@yahoo.com. My website is Daryl Hurston II, PrimeVictimFoundation.org.
Daryl, I love talking to you, and I know you and I, when we get together, we just talking because our minds are about the same thing. And I applaud you for taking your pain and just putting it back into the community. So thank you very much. We're going to bring you back on. Family, I appreciate you for joining the conversation. Continue to be safe. Be aware of your surroundings always. Just a reminder, Ellen Foundation's got a couple of things coming up. This weekend, the 17th, is our women's conference. So if you are looking to attend, please go and register. Go to www.thelmfoundation.org. We're doing our back to school. If you know of a family that's in need of back to school supplies, please come on out on the 24th. We're giving away school supplies. It's open to anyone. First come, first serve. And last is our really big event, which is October 5, which is our Walk Against Domestic Violence, which is going to be at the Prince George's Field and Track. Is that the name of the Field and Track that's over here by Redskins Stadium, Daryl? The large one. It's the track and field. Yes, the complex. That's October 5th, where it's again to bring awareness to domestic violence. And then in the evening, we are so honored to have actor-singer Leon, who is bringing his award-winning band to give us a night of jazz and reggae. And it's all about Stop the Violence. So please go and take a look at our website and see what we're doing. God bless you, family. Daryl, thank you so much. Continue to be safe. Family, we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You still there? Bam.